2. The jungle stirred awake, a symphony of 1,000 tiny lives humming under the canopy. Sunlight, like liquid gold, dripped through the thick emerald leaves, splashing patches of warmth onto the forest floor. Birds twittered their morning greetings from high branches, and a chorus of insects buzzed, a constant gentle thrum against the humid air. Deep within this vibrant world, nestled in the shadows of ancient trees, a sleek jungle cat named Raja stretched. He arched his back, muscles rippling under his spotted coat, and let out a long, contented yawn. The sun-warmed rock he lay on was his throne, and from this vantage point, he surveyed his kingdom. Raja was the king of this jungle, or so he believed. He was swift, he was cunning, and he was undeniably proud. There wasn't a creature alive, he was sure, that could outsmart him. A low growl rumbled in his belly, a sudden reminder that pride alone wouldn't fill it. It was time to hunt. He narrowed his golden eyes, his senses sharpening, tuning into the subtle movements and scents of the undergrowth. A rustle of leaves here, the snap of a twig there, each sound was a clue, a potential meal. But then, something new drifted on the breeze. It was a strange smell, unlike anything he'd ever encountered. It wasn't the earthy scent of prey, or the sweet perfume of jungle blossoms. This was something different. It was rich, creamy, and utterly perplexing. It tugged at his curiosity, pulling his attention away from his usual hunting grounds. He followed the scent, his paws silent on the mossy ground. He peered around a massive, gnarled tree root, and his eyes widened at the sight. There, struggling with a peculiar yellow block, was a tiny mouse. The mouse, whom we'll call Chiku, was so small that the yellow block seemed like a boulder he was determinedly dragging along. Where in the world did a jungle mouse find something like this? It was cheese. Glorious, golden cheese, a treasure unheard of in this wild domain. Chiku hummed a happy little tune, completely absorbed in his prize, oblivious to the fact that he was being watched. Raja's golden eyes were locked on the scene. Not on the cheese, but on the mouse. A mouse so bold, so careless, so small. A triumphant smirk played on Raja's lips. This would be too easy. He lowered himself into a crouch, his body hugging the earth, his tail beginning its slow, hypnotic sway back and forth. The thrill of the hunt coursed through him. He could already taste victory. He gathered his powerful hind legs beneath him, every muscle coiled and ready. With an explosive leap, he sprang forward, a silent, deadly shadow hurtling through the air. At the last second, Chiku looked up. A tiny squeak of pure terror escaped him as the world became a blur of fur and claws. He bolted. Pure instinct took over, and the little mouse darted away, the precious cheese bouncing wildly behind him. The chase was on. Raja landed precisely where the mouse had been a moment before, his paws kicking up dirt. Annoyance flickered in his eyes. He had misjudged the mouse's speed. The chase exploded into a chaotic dash through the undergrowth. Chiku weaved through tangled roots and thorny vines, his small size a sudden, unexpected advantage. Raja, larger and more powerful, crashed through the foliage, his frustration growing with every near miss. The little mouse was faster than he looked. Chiku scrambled up the trunk of a giant fig tree, his tiny claws finding purchase in the rough bark. Raja was right behind him, leaping from branch to branch with astonishing agility. But Chiku was nimble. He scurried along a thin vine that stretched between two trees like a tightrope. Raja hesitated. If the vine looked too flimsy to support his weight. He watched, growling in frustration, as Chiku reached the other side and scurried down, disappearing into a thicket of ferns. Raja leaped across the gap, landing heavily, but the mouse was gone. He sniffed the air, catching the faint, lingering scent of cheese, a mocking reminder of his failure. For the next hour, the jungle became their playground. Chiku would pop out from behind a giant mushroom, tauntingly nibbling a corner of his cheese. only to vanish again when Raja lunged. He led the cat on a wild race along a babbling brook, hopping from one slippery stone to another. Raja, drenched and furious, could only watch as the mouse stayed just out of reach. It was becoming less of a hunt and more of a game, and Raja was not enjoying being the fool. This tiny creature was making a mockery of him, the supposed king of the jungle. Finally, exhausted and outsmarted, Raja cornered Chiku against a steep rock wall. There was nowhere left to run. Chiku trembled, clutching his cheese, his little heart pounding like a drum. Raja crept forward, a low, menacing growl rumbling in his chest. "You've been a thorn in my paw, little mouse," he hissed. "But the game is over." He loomed over Chiku, ready to pounce. Chiku, seeing no escape, did the only thing he could think of. He held up the block of cheese. "Wait," he squeaked. "You can have some?" Raja paused, confused. The mouse was offering him the treasure. He looked from the terrified mouse to the yellow block. His stomach growled again, louder this time. He was hungry, and the chase had worn him out. He had never tasted cheese before, but the smell was intoxicating. Slowly, cautiously, he lowered his head and took a small nibble. A wave of surprise washed over him. The flavor was incredible. It was savory, creamy, and unlike anything he had ever eaten. He took another, bigger bite. Chiku watched, amazed, as the fearsome predator devoured the cheese. When Raja was finished, he licked his whiskers clean and looked down at the mouse. He wasn't angry anymore. He was satisfied. Chiku, seeing the change in the cat's demeanor, dared to speak again. "My name is Chiku," he said softly. Raja looked at the little mouse, who had outsmarted him, tired him out, and then shared his most prized possession. "I am Raja," he replied, his voice no longer a hiss. From that day on, an unlikely friendship blossomed in the heart of the jungle. Raja, the proud hunter, learned that might isn't always right, and that sometimes the smallest creatures have the biggest hearts. And Chiku, the clever mouse, learned that even the most fearsome predators can have a surprising soft spot, especially for cheese. They were an odd pair, the sleek cat and the tiny mouse, but their story became a legend whispered through the leaves. 2. It was a reminder that friendship can be found in the most unexpected places, and that a little bit of kindness, and perhaps a block of cheese, can change everything. And so, the jungle hummed on, not just with the sounds of life, but with the quiet laughter of two new friends. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories. Thrummed with the energy of an epic chase, Raja, the mighty tiger, was on the hunt, his powerful strides tearing through the tall grass. He wasn't hunting for a meal, though. He was hunting for his dignity. And a very mischievous little mouse named Chiku, who had just stolen his favorite block of cheese. Chiku was a blur of gray fur, a tiny rocket fueled by audacity and a love for dairy. He darted and weaved, a master of the forest floor. He saw the world differently than Raja. To the tiger, the jungle was a series of obstacles. To Chiku, it was a playground, an obstacle course designed just for him. He'd leap over a gnarled root that Raja had to crash through. He'd slide under a low-hanging vine that snagged on Raja's ear, making the big cat roar in frustration. Raja, for all his power, was clumsy in his rage. He saw Chiku disappear behind a curtain of leaves and launched himself forward, expecting to burst through and finally grab the little thief. But his timing was off. Instead of leaves, he met the unyielding trunk of an ancient banyan tree with a loud thud. The impact sent a tremor through the branches, and a flock of startled parrots erupted into the sky, squawking their disapproval. From a safe distance, perched on a mushroom, Chiku paused. He couldn't help it. A tiny giggle escaped him, a squeaky sound that was lost in the jungle. Chorus, but was heard perfectly clear by Raja's sensitive ears. That little laugh was like adding fuel to the fire. Before Raja could even shake the stars from his eyes, Chiku gave a little salute with the cheese and vanished into the darkness of a hollow log. Raja pulled himself free from the tree, shaking his head. Leaves and twigs were stuck in his magnificent orange fur, and his pride was definitely more bruised than his head. But the chase was far from over. In fact, his determination was now burning hotter than the midday sun. This was personal. See, the pursuit became a symphony of chaos. It grew louder, with Raja's roars echoing through the trees. It grew messier as they churned up dirt and scattered foliage. And for anyone watching, it grew funnier and funnier. The jungle itself seemed to be a spectator. They reached a steep, muddy slope leading down to a stream. Raja, driven by pure momentum, couldn't stop. He skidded, his huge paws finding no purchase, and went tumbling down the bank, landing with a tremendous splash in the shallow water. He spotted a large, sturdy leaf floating near the bank. With a nimble hop, he landed on it, using the stolen cheese as a counterweight. The leaf became his personal little boat, and he drifted serenely across the stream, dry and smug. He even had time to take a tiny nibble of his prize as he sailed. From the canopy above, a troop of monkeys who had been watching the whole spectacle erupted in howls of laughter. They pointed and chattered, finding the sight of the great, dignified tiger covered in mud absolutely hilarious. Even the parrots, who had returned to their perches, seemed to be mimicking Raja's frustrated growls, adding their own commentary to his predicament. Raja finally managed to scramble out of the stream. He tried to climb the slippery bank, his claws digging into the mud, only to slide back down with another comical splash. The monkeys shrieked with delight. On his second attempt, he finally heaved his dripping, furious body onto solid ground. He shook himself violently, sending a spray of water and mud in every direction. He stood there, panting, scanning the opposite bank for the little gray menace. But Chiku was long gone. The only sign he had ever been there was a faint trail of tiny footprints leading deep into the undergrowth. The cheese, tucked safely under Chiku's arm, was on its way to a victory feast. Raja let out one last, long, frustrated roar that echoed through the valley. It wasn't a roar of anger anymore. It was a roar of grudging respect. The little mouse had won this round. Later that day, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows through the jungle, Raja was grooming his fur by the riverbank, still trying to get the last bits of mud out. He was no longer angry, just tired and a little bit sore. Suddenly, he heard a tiny squeak. He looked down, and there was Chiku, sitting on a smooth river stone. The block of cheese was next to him, with only a few small nibbles taken out of it. Raja blinked. He was too surprised to even growl. Chiku pushed the cheese forward with his nose, a peace offering. The tiger looked at the mouse, then at the cheese, and then back at the mouse. A low rumble started in his chest, but it wasn't a growl. It was a deep, rumbling laugh. The absurdity of it all, the chase, the mud, the monkeys, it was all just too much. He leaned down, his huge face just inches from the tiny mouse. Chiku stood his ground, trembling only slightly. Raja gently nudged the cheese back toward Chiku with his nose. "You earned it, little one," he rumbled, his voice like stones grinding together. "But next time, just ask." Chiku's eyes went wide. He squeaked a thank you, grabbed his prize, and scurried away before the tiger could change his mind. From that day on, an unlikely friendship blossomed between the giant tiger and the tiny mouse. They still played their games of chase, but now they were just that game. Raja was more careful and Chiku was less of a thief. And sometimes, on a quiet afternoon, you could see them sharing a piece of cheese by the river, the best of friends. The jungle is full of surprises. Shit. And the greatest surprise of all is that sometimes the biggest hearts can be found in the smallest of creatures. And true strength isn't about how loud you can roar, but how graciously you can share your cheese. Thank you for watching our story today. If you enjoyed the adventures of Raja and Chiku, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more tales from the heart of the jungle. See you next time. The jungle, once a sprawling playground, had now twisted into a battlefield. Every shadow held a secret, and every rustle of leaves was a potential skirmish. Raja moved through it with a newfound seriousness, a predator reborn. He promised himself there would be no more mistakes, no more foolish displays. His steps were deliberate, his body low to the ground, a silent, deadly promise gliding through the undergrowth. He was the king of this domain, and he would act like it. Every muscle was coiled, ready to spring. He was stalking, truly stalking now, using the very earth as his accomplice. Feeling the vibrations through the pads of his paws, slow. He was a whisper in the wind, a fleeting shadow, the very essence of the hunt. But while Raja was playing chess, Chiku was playing an entirely different game, one with his own mischievous rules. He had a secret weapon, a treasure he'd pilfered from a nearby village campsite. A small, glorious block of cheese. He'd break off tiny, fragrant crumbs, each one a golden invitation. He wasn't just running. He was choreographing Raja's every move. He'd place a crumb on a low-hanging branch, another by the root of an ancient banyan tree, creating a tantalizing trail that smelled of victory and deliciousness. It was a breadcrumb path leading not to a gingerbread house, but straight into a carefully orchestrated disaster. Raja, despite his new resolve, couldn't ignore the scent. It was pungent, alluring, and utterly out of place in the jungle. His hunter's curiosity warred with his caution. What was this strange, tempting smell? He followed it, his silent stalking momentarily forgotten. Each crumb he found only deepened the mystery and drew him further in. A few moved with what he thought was extreme care, sniffing the air, placing each paw with precision. The trail led him to a small clearing, where a particularly large piece of cheese sat innocently on a patch of what looked like solid ground. It was too easy. His instincts screamed trap, but the scent was overwhelming. He took one final, cautious step forward. Home, and the world gave way. The ground beneath him wasn't ground at all. It was a thin layer of earth and leaves artfully arranged over a deep pit filled with dry, crackling foliage. With a sound like a thunderclap made of twigs, Raja plunged downwards. He tumbled head over paws, a whirlwind of orange and black fur, leaves flying in every direction. The world was a spinning, noisy blur. He landed at the bottom with a heavy thud, a cloud of dust and debris erupting around him. For a moment, he just lay there, utterly bewildered, the sky a distant circle above him. When he finally managed to sit up, he was a comical sight. Leaves were stuck in his fur, a twig was perched precariously on his ear, and he was covered head to tail in fine brown dust. He blinked, trying to shake the dizziness away, the scent of cheese now mockingly mixed with the smell of dry earth. And then he heard it, a slow, deliberate clapping. He looked up, his eyes narrowing. There, perched on a branch directly overlooking the pit, was Chiku. The little monkey was applauding his performance with dramatic flair, a wide, triumphant grin splitting his face. The humiliation was a hot flush under Raja's fur. With a roar that was pure, unadulterated fury, Raja scrambled out of the pit. He didn't care about stealth anymore. He didn't care about tactics. He only cared about catching that infuriatingly clever monkey. He burst from the foliage, a dusty demon of vengeance, and the chase was on again. But this time, it was different. It was chaos. The jungle itself seemed to respond to their frenzied race. As Chiku swung from a thick vine, it snapped under the strain, sending him sailing through the air in an unexpected arc. He landed nimbly on another branch, but the broken vine swung back and whipped Raja right across the face. Stung and enraged, Raja lunged. Bids. His charge was interrupted by a cascade of overripe mangoes, dislodged by Chiku from a high branch. The sticky fruits rained down on him, splattering his fur with sweet, messy pulp. He shook his head, momentarily blinded by mango juice, and saw Chiku scrambling up a different tree. He followed, his claws digging into the bark, his powerful legs propelling him upwards. But just as he gained on the monkey, a new player entered the game. A large wild boar, startled from its afternoon nap by the commotion, suddenly burst from the bushes right between them. It snorted an alarm and charged blindly forward. Raja had no choice. To avoid being gored, he launched himself into a spectacular leap, a high, desperate arc over the boar's bristly back. It was a magnificent athletic display, but the landing was anything but graceful. He came down on the other side, his paws finding not solid earth but a wide patch of slick, green moss growing near a stream. His legs went out from under him instantly. He slid, completely out of control, like a skier on a banana peel, arms and legs flailing. Spun around, a blur of undignified motion, before finally sliding to a halt in a shallow, muddy puddle at the edge of the stream. He sat there, soaking wet, covered in mud, mango pulp, and leaves, the very picture of defeated royalty. From a safe distance, Chiku chattered with laughter, the sound echoing through the now quiet jungle. Raja could only glare, the water dripping from his whiskers like angry tears. This wasn't a battlefield anymore. It was a comedy stage, and he was the unwilling star. But as he sat there, fuming, a new, cold determination began to settle in. The game wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Thank yous for watching. We'll see what happens next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more adventures. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in fiery oranges and deep purples. The shadows across the jungle floor stretched long and thin, like grasping fingers. The air, thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers, grew cooler, but the chase only grew hotter. It had been going on all day, a frantic, comical ballet of fur and determination. Raja, the larger of the two, with a coat the color of sunset and a will of iron, was relentless. His paws thudded against the soft ground, his breath coming in ragged bursts. Ahead of him, a blur of nimble energy, was Chiku. Smaller, quicker, and infinitely more clever. Chiku weaved through the labyrinth of ancient trees and tangled vines. The prize clutched tightly in his grasp, a perfect golden wedge of cheese. Where on earth did one find cheese in a jungle? That was a story for another day. Right now, all that mattered was possession. The chase had become faster, more desperate. The playful energy of the morning had evaporated, replaced by a raw, focused intensity. Every near miss, every clever dodge, only fueled Raja's frustration and Chiku's resolve. They darted past a family of startled monkeys, who chattered their disapproval before going back to their bananas. They leaped over a lazy python sunning itself on a warm rock, who didn't even bother to open an eye. The entire jungle seemed to be holding its breath, a silent audience to this epic pursuit. Raja, driven by a primal need for victory and, let's be honest, for that delicious-smelling cheese, pushed himself harder. He could almost feel the creamy texture on his tongue, taste the sharp, tangy flavor. He was so close. So very close. Finally, a breakthrough. Raja, using a burst of speed he didn't know he possessed, cut off Chiku's escape route, cornering him near a large, imposing cluster of moss-covered rocks. It was a dead end. Chiku skidded to a halt, dust kicking up around his tiny feet. He turned, his chest heaving, and for the first time all day, a flicker of genuine nervousness crossed his face. The usual playful glint in his eyes was gone, replaced by a look of calculation and, perhaps, a tiny bit of fear. There was nowhere left to run. Raja padded closer, a slow, deliberate advance. A wide, confident smile spread across his face, revealing a flash of teeth. The game was over. The silly, day-long comedy had reached its climax, and the victory, sweet and savory, was his. He savored the moment, the feeling of absolute triumph washing over him. But Chiku was a master of misdirection. Just as Raja lunged, ready to claim his prize, Chiku did the unthinkable. With a flick of his wrist, he tossed the cheese high into the air. The golden wedge spun end over end, a perfect arc against the twilight sky. It was a simple, brilliant move. Raja's eyes, trained by hours of relentless focus, followed the cheese instinctively. His body reacted before his brain could, every muscle tensing for the airborne catch. That one moment, that single, fleeting second of distraction, was all Chiku needed. Raja leaped, a magnificent, powerful spring into the air, his claws outstretched. He was a picture of grace and power, but his target was wrong. His eyes were on the cheese, not on the ground. He missed. He missed completely. The cheese sailed over his head as he crashed, headfirst, not onto the soft jungle floor, but into a massive, squishy pile of half-eaten bananas left behind by the chattering monkeys they had passed earlier. The impact was comical and messy. Raja, disoriented and covered in banana mush, slipped his feet, finding no purchase. He slid sideways, arms flailing, and began to roll. Down a short, steep hill he went, a spinning ball of fir leaves and banana, gathering momentum until he ended with a loud, undignified splash right in the middle of a muddy, algae-filled pond. Silence descended for a moment, broken only by the gentle plop of the cheese landing safely on a soft patch of moss. Chiku, ever composed, calmly trotted over and retrieved his prize. He hopped onto a flat rock overlooking the pond, took a deep breath, and then erupted in laughter. It wasn't a mean laugh, but one of pure, unrestrained amusement. He laughed so hard his whole body shook, and he nearly dropped the precious cheese into the dirt. Okay? And it seemed the entire jungle was laughing with him. The low, guttural croaks of frogs from the pond sounded like chuckles. The evening chirps of birds in the trees overhead sounded like joyful tweets. Even the giant, ancient trees seemed to sway in the gentle breeze as if they too were amused by the spectacle. The world was filled with a chorus of natural, joyous laughter, all directed at the mud-covered figure in the pond. Night fell gently, a soft blanket of indigo and silver. The stars began to pop out one by one, sharp and brilliant in the clear jungle sky. The air cooled, and the sounds of the day creatures gave way to the symphony of the night. Slowly, painfully, Raja crawled out of the mud. He was a pathetic sight, dripping with brown sludge and green algae, smelling faintly of pond water and fermented bananas. He was exhausted, embarrassed, and utterly defeated. He collapsed onto the bank, shaking his head to fling off a particularly stubborn bit of mud. But then, a strange thing happened. As he lay there, looking up at the twinkling stars, a smile began to form on his face. It was a tired, rueful smile, but a genuine one nonetheless. The absurdity of it all, the grand chase, the silly banana pile, the final splash, it was, in its own way, hilarious. He heard a soft rustling nearby. Chuku was approaching. Carefully, the wedge of cheese still in his hand. He stopped a few feet away, his earlier laughter replaced by a quiet, inquisitive expression. He looked at Raja, then at the cheese. With a small, hesitant gesture, he broke off a tiny piece and held it out, an offer in a truce. Raja hesitated. His pride stung. His body ached. But his stomach rumbled. He looked at the small piece of cheese, then at Chiku's earnest face, and let out a long, slow sigh of resignation. He reached out and accepted it. For a moment, there was peace. A quiet understanding passed between them. Chiku sat down beside Raja, and they sat there, side by side, under the vast, starry canvas of the jungle sky. The hunter and the hunted, the rivals, the victor and the vanquished, sharing the unlikely jungle cheese, listening to the deep, rhythmic breathing of the forest all around them. The chase was over, and in its place, something new and unexpected had begun. Thanks for watching.